it is interesting that they flip that and make it less haunted and a little bit more just family melodrama in a way.
Yeah, well, because it is him just like he's a an English character who has been living in America for 18 years. He's clearly estranged from his father. He's there for the first time in 18 years to reunite with him after, I believe it's the hunting accident death of his older brother, Mr. John Jr., who was actually named after the father too. So it's just like, clearly that was the favored son who was going to take over the family business and all of this. And so like the immediate impression you get from Larry and John Sr. interacting, especially the way he calls him just like sir, is that they're like trying to reanimate their relationship. But like very clearly, this is a bit of a negligent father who's very busy, who doesn't really listen to his son, who didn't really see him as like the one who would be the one to take over for him. And now clearly they have to, they shake hands and are like, we're going to restart our relationship. But there was very clearly a reason that these two guys were disconnected in the first place. And so Lon Chaney definitely plays it as like a little bit of he's already wounded. Mm-hmm. But he's open and he is like, I'm going to go explore the town. I'm going to get excited about this place. I'm going to, he's putting in the effort. And in doing that is how he ends up very aggressively pursuing the beautiful neighbor girl, Gwen, played by Evelyn Ankers, who he, of course, spies on one day working in her father's antique shop across the street while toying with his father's like astronomy telescope, which just made me think about fucking Body Double for a moment. Yeah. And I was like, sir, you better not use that fucking telescope. There's actually a part where he even brings it up. He's very honest about how he saw her. And he's just and he's like, don't worry though, like I'm not gonna like look through your window anymore. She's like, I'm gonna close those curtains. And he's like, no, don't do that. And he's like, not because I'm gonna look through it though.
No, it's like don't
and he's like, dude, you're protesting too much.
Oh yeah, one of the first things me and my brother were laughing so hard. He's just so persistent and honest. Like I couldn't believe how honest he is. When he goes into the shop initially, he basically says something about the keys or whatever that she's left on her dresser, which is the window that he was looking into, and she just looks at him like, what the fuck, how the hell do you
why do you know that? And something about her earrings too, or something like, why don't you wear those like earrings or something?
Actually. Yeah, it was the earrings, because and that too, to comment on something that she should be wearing, and then it's something that he only knows because he was spying on her from a telescope in his father's mansion. It's just so funny to me, and I couldn't believe how forward he was being. And it's consistent, like throughout the movie his character just kind of has this strange confidence about himself and persistence, regardless of the fact that I think 5 minutes into the conversation she's telling him that she's engaged and everything like that. But
she takes a little bit to say that she's necessarily engaged. I think she mentions it when they actually go to the sort of encampment to get their fortunes told and everything like that. Right. But she definitely says, she very curtly goes, no, I don't really want to go on a date with you, man. Like that's fine.
3 times, which is very funny.
I'm happy. Like I'm happy to converse with you. You seem nice. I'm happy you walked into my shop and you want to buy this cane that's decorated with like this silver head like of a wolf and a pentagram on it, which seems a little, I'm surprised I have to describe what this is to you, but there's the story of the werewolf. I do like that she mentions it like a ton of different times. She's like, because I think there's 3 different characters who all describe the local legend of the wolf in a poem that was written by Siad Mack and kind of went on to be like quoted quite a lot. But it was there must be an ancient explanation for the 2 personalities within us. And he goes on to say, even a man who is pure in heart and says his prayers by night may become a wolf when the wolfbane blooms and the autumn moon is bright. And so many different, and I love how by the time the second or third person says it to him, he's like, oh yeah, you know that one too. Everyone knows this one in this neighborhood. It's almost like there's like something to this.
Yeah, like this might have happened before. We're aware of this. Yeah, it is kind of interesting because there is even a little bit of, mostly when they get to the whole doctor investigator thing, they're trying to do it through scientific means, but there is always one character in the scene that's usually kind of in the belief of the legend. Just kind of supporting that idea that this is something that has maybe happened throughout the town. This is why, like you said, everyone knows this poem, and whether or not they believe it, there's that kind of communal thing that you're a part of this legend regardless of if it's a myth or not.
Well, and in researching this too, I was pretty interested to learn that like a lot of this is the invention of Siotmak, who what was familiar with a lot of sort of like werewolf legend, because there's a lot of it in Germany in particular. Actually, the Nazis even weaponized it a little bit and actually used the term and named some stuff after it. So it was something he was already kind of familiar with when it landed on his desk. But he was like, how do you turn it into how do you create cinematic rules around it? And so many of the influential elements of the werewolf legend that are in this film that went on to basically be in every single werewolf film after the fact. Things like the full moon element, things like the silver bullet elements, like a lot of that is, kind of directly from him, even though there is lots of folklore in general about like men turning into beasts and how they became that.
Yeah, and I will say too, a lot of the stuff that we've talked about, especially with vampires, I feel like have really gone all over the place with the lore at this point. They've stretched it more, whereas the werewolf lore does seem to kind of just stay locked into what it is every single time for the most part. Like even Ginger
they got
Snaps,
it right the first time, and they were like, "Yeah, we're not changing that."
Yeah, exactly. That is truly what it feels like. And I do also like that they kind of allude to some of the fairy tale stuff, like at a certain point as a joke.